Working hard to put a smile on your face. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back. You're listening to Real Talk with Brian and Dan on 1150 KKNW.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Dan. Our first guest today is Pat Stone, Executive Chairman, founder of Williston Financial Group.
Pat has enjoyed a lengthy career in real estate and real estate-related services, including C officer positions with 3 public companies. Let me CEO, CFO, COO. I think that's what we're talking about. 3 public companies, and as a director in 2 Fortune 500 boards. The senior executive management positions include 9 years as president and COO of the nation's largest title insurance company, chairman and co-CEO of a software company, and CEO of a real estate data and information company.
Currently, Pat serves as the executive chairman and founder of Williston Financial Group, as well as serves on the board of Nassau Resurgence, Transmodus, Tri-Sting Tree Golf Club, and Inman News, who named him one of 2013's 100 most influential people in real estate, and in 2015, one of the top 101 real estate industry doers. Additionally, Pat has also served as vice chairman of the Metro Cities Mortgage, a 2005 top 20 lender, and as chairman of the Stone Group, an Austin, Texas-based tenant rep brokerage company, as well as on those boards of Fidelity Financial, First American Corporation, FNIS, Micro General, SKLD, World Minerals. Wow, there's a ton of them here, Pat. Green Street Advisors, Digital Map, Home Gain, Red Vision, and Wisting Capital.
Pat's philanthropic involvement has included service as chairman of the Santa Barbara Art Museum and as a director of the Portland Art Museum. He is a past chairman of the Oregon State University Foundation and co-chair its $1 billion capital campaign. Patrick has 3 beautiful daughters and 4 grandchildren and resides in Portland, Oregon with his wife, Vicki. Pat, welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're a busy guy, so we won't take up a lot of your time, but in the meantime, when you're not doing any of that amazing work, do you have any hobbies or interests?
Well, I play a lot of golf, I collect art, and I enjoy my grandchildren.
Ah, perfect.
So we'd like to ask each guest to share with us a fond memory of the home you grew up in. What do you got for us, Pat?
Well, I grew up in a really small town in southwestern North Dakota on the southern edge of the North Dakota Badlands.
Wow.
My father built our home in 1953. I was 6 years old, and my memory is helping him. I had a can, and every day he'd have me go around and pick up nails and things that had, fallen on the side. And so I always felt very busy and very involved in building that home. And I look back on it, it was very cold there. It got down to 40 below every winter.
Yeah.
So you didn't build a very big home. And I look back on it thinking at the time, oh, this is a gigantic palace he's building. It was 900 square feet.
Oh, wow.
Wow. But that's when your housing career started, right there.
That's when my housing career started.
Well, listen, we appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. You've got a great pedigree and a lot of insight that we want to share with our listeners. So the housing market in Seattle has been pretty hot. And can you share with us what's driving that growth and how long can it continue?
Well, I think what is driving it basically is employment growth. And if you want to see something interesting, you plot the employment growth along with home price appreciation, and employment growth has gone up steadily since the downturn.
Mm-hmm.
Home price appreciation went up steadily right along with it up until about a year and a half ago, and then it started leveling off a little. Still increasing, but we are really experiencing a demand-driven, employment growth-driven market.
And as far as I understand, with the housing slowing, yet the growth in jobs, didn't Amazon just announce more, and Google and Facebook all announced more stuff here in the Puget Sound area? So does that mean the housing market's going to continue to stay hot?
Well, hot's a funny word. And
Loaded word.
I've been around way too long to use the word hot. And let me put it this way. It will be demand-driven for the foreseeable future. I do not see us getting into a position where supply exceeds demand in the next 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
So you're going to have home price appreciation, although I think it'll be more rational than it has been. And it'll be more balanced, and it will even out over time as you start to see more starter homes being built.
Yeah, I know one of the things,
refreshing. Yeah.
I've been in the business 14 years. Brian has been doing it for 38 years. But for me, it's kind of refreshing to talk to our friends, our colleagues, when they ask us how the market is, and we say, you know what, it's good, it's stable, right? So to take away from what you're saying is it feels more balanced.
Yeah, I think it's it's not quite. I want to be careful here. It's not quite back to what I would call a balanced, normal market. It is
Right.
still. We still haven't built enough homes to have a truly balanced market. By that I mean if you went back and plotted the average number of new homes constructed in the U.S. from I think 1959 to 2007, the average was about 1 million new homes a year. We haven't topped 1 million new homes since 2007. We haven't even come close to it.
Of new
So-
construction.
New construction, right?
Yeah, new construction has been lagging. Starter homes have been lagging. Now we're starting to see some wage and salary growth at the lower end of the income scale. In fact, it's about 4% for the lowest one-third. So we're starting to see people who haven't had any income growth for a long time experience some income growth. I think that will result in more new starter homes being built. We have one major national home builder that started developing starter home subdivisions this year. That was Lennar. And I think you'll start seeing more of that going forward.
And I think you just answered my next question about the buying trends. I really wish we'd see more starter homes. I think for us, the land prices and the concurrency fees, in my opinion, is our local government is the biggest enemy of affordable housing.
This is King County, right?
King County, yeah. But even local, Sammamish, for example, has the highest concurrency fees. It's tough. It's tough to build. So
yeah, that's true, and it's really funny because you look at the Northwest. We've had a very significant influx of young people moving into the Northwest. We've had great job growth in the Northwest, and yet we have a little bit of bureaucracy working against us in terms of zoning, urban development restrictions, housing development restrictions. So
right.
I think we need to see some changes there pretty quick.
So what, I know a lot of people have talked about the upzoning in Seattle, and they've talked about, bringing back condos because condos have been off the ability to build now. I mean, what kind of solutions do you see on a local level or a government level that would help create more affordable housing, starter level housing in this area?
If I may, and I'm going to get a little bit philosophical on you,
Please
it
do.
really requires a more long-term view so that you develop infrastructure to support a broader level of development. We have major urban centers, but our infrastructure is always sort of a backfill effort.
Yep.
To create the infrastructure after we have the need instead of developing the infrastructure to facilitate growth. So the only answer short-term is to increase density. Long-term, we need to create it. When we do something with infrastructure, we need to do it in a manner that it facilitates growth for a 50-year cycle. You can't do this fill-in type stuff. It is extremely expensive.
I was going to say, it costs more money, right?
Right.
Exactly. It costs way more money. So I think you're going to have to see more density. We are, in Portland, we're seeing this sort of an infill cycle where you're going to be building multiple units of what has been traditionally single-family zoned areas.
Right.
We'll see how that goes, but these are stopgap measures. Long-term, again, we need to say, okay, here's a 50-year plan, and ultimately it'll be cheaper for everybody, but it requires a little bit of forethought.
So I think I read that Oregon and Portland was basically eliminating single-family as a zoning to do exactly what you're talking about. Is that?
Yeah, they're trying. It's really interesting to watch the social impact of that, and it gets magnified at higher price levels, obviously. So we'll see how it goes.
That's interesting. So there's a pushback socially.
There's a pushback socially at the higher end. Now,
Gotcha.
Fair or not, I don't even want to get into that.
Right,
sure.
It is a stopgap Band-Aid measure. And I suspect we're going to have to do something like that, or we're going to have a huge problem. So it is what it is.
So builders seem to be building more and more. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. What do they know? What are you think the builders are moving towards?
Well, it's interesting you say that because, as I mentioned earlier, actually building has not even recovered to a historical
2007,
norm. Yeah, we're building more, but we're still not building what we historically built in terms of a number of new units. And I think you will see that recover over the next few years. But builders have tremendous costs in land acquisition,
Yeah.
development
Right.
costs. Getting a subdivision, I can remember when I did my first subdivision about 40 years ago, and I did it like in 2 months. Right now it
Right.
takes 2 years.
Oh,
I mean,
geez.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
This
I mean,
isn't the
you're-
subdivision in South Dakota. That was one house. It doesn't count.
No, it was here in Portland, Oregon, but it was here before. I mean, it was a little bit more rational process.
Yeah, I'm a year and a half in on a 5-lot short plat, and
Oh,
and I'd say
gosh.
it's going really well. And so, yeah. Oh,
Well, so there's obviously a lot of stuff real estate wise is location and local, but can you share with us the national market and how that's going to impact this area?
Yeah, the national market is really, really interesting, and it is, you know, one of the problems we have in our industry, and our industry being every aspect of real estate, is that things get distilled down and presented on national averages,
Yeah.
like the Case-Shiller Index and so forth. And the national market is very, very, very different from area to area. You know, the high end stalled out in the Northeast starting about 2 years ago, and it's actually gotten to be problematic, I think, in places like New York right now.
Yeah.
The Southeast is still benefiting from an influx of population, but it's gotten to be somewhat problematic there also. Texas, you've had tremendous job growth in Texas. You've got the tax advantages. You know, you got 4 states, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and Nevada, that don't have income tax. So they've all had some benefit influx of both business and people. Midwest, I would say, is actually hurting way more than people understand, mainly because agribusiness has been destroyed by the trade war.
wars, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, you look around, you say West Coast is good, but the high end slowed down in the major markets. You know, the 3 states with the highest level of appreciation are Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. Go figure, right? But I think that's because people are moving from the West Coast inland into those markets like Boise and Las Vegas and so forth.
Yeah, and I was, I've had several colleagues and friends actually relocate from here, the east side, to Eagle, Idaho is one place.
Right.
Because of the way work now exists online, right? You can telecommute essentially in many, many jobs. There seems to be that ability to kind of relocate to a place where you're going to have more favorable, affordable housing, right?
Yeah, and you're also seeing, I mean, just and not to cause any unnecessary alarm, but candidly, the tech industry is way overinvested.
Mm.
You know, if you want to say, is there a bubble? There's no bubble in housing, but there's a bubble in tech.
Mm.
So you're starting to see people, taking a serious second thought about living in places like the Bay Area or Los Angeles, and they're moving inland. They're actually moving from Portland and Seattle to places like Idaho. So.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
seeing
and like
that.
Quincy here, which is right over has one of the fastest internet backbones in the United States, and it's
You're all fiber.
I think it's about 2 hours away from Seattle. But some people in LA are commuting that kind of time. So
Yep.
it's interesting to see how the next 20 to 30 years, how people are going to be living. It's not going to have to necessarily be anchored to a large mega city.
I would agree with that. I think that's one of the benefits of technology and the internet. Absolutely.
So, Pat, we're seeing a rapidly changing real estate industry, NAR versus National Association of Realtors versus U.S. Justice Department. What change do you see going forward in the title industry from all this stuff?
Well, if you look at the title industry, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that insurance is regulated by state. Almost every other industry has a national overlay or national oversight, but insurance is actually regulated every state in a different manner. So my company right now, I do business nationally. I'm a truly national company. We report to 130 different regulators quarterly.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's crazy. So the ability of the insurance industry to change rapidly or to adopt any meaningful change quickly is really mitigated by regulation. Now,
Right.
one thing I do see happening in our industry is that because we are a small component of the insurance industry, and I don't want to bore you or your listeners, but if you're an insurance department, you're running an insurance department, you are funded by premium tax. and you get very little premium tax from the title insurance industry. So it's sort of an afterthought.
Yeah.
And you look at our industry and you look what's happening. We have had basically a liability-based pricing system forever. In other words, house prices go up, we charge more.
Right.
Which is
Right.
kind of wonder about that. If you examine the same property 10 times in 20 years, and you charge more each time,
Yeah.
that doesn't make much sense, does
Yeah.
it? So I think the biggest thing that's going to happen in our industry is you're going to see a little bit more risk-based pricing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 16 states doing data calls right now to try to determine how much of the title premium is actually risk-based.
Blockchain
So-
for title.
Yeah, well, not blockchain, but you are
Yeah.
going to see a little bit more rational pricing model come into being in the title
Interesting.
insurance industry. And I would argue that you're going to probably see a little bit more rational pricing model across the real estate industry.
Yep.
Right. That's what we're looking
Well,
at.
and that's exactly what we're kind of getting at is, that we get it. Housing prices go up, and yes, there's an exponential relationship of our commission, and so is title as a relationship to the price. At some point, the competition, the pressure has to be adjusted for value, and I think that's the key, right? Like, what's the risk involved from a title perspective? Oh, well, Pat, we could probably spend another hour and a half chatting with you. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy
Yeah,
schedule
thank you,
to come
Pat.
in.
Well, my pleasure. Happy to visit with you anytime. Like what you guys do, and let me know if I can help you in any way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After the break, we have Abby Burdick of Abby Burdick Designs. Stay with us for more.